Shaquille O'Neal admitted he was terrified of Michael Jordan. Kevin Garnett compared facing him to staring at the sun. Many NBA legends didn't fear MJ just because he beat them. They feared how he treated people. From ruthless trash talk to physically confronting teammates. These legends now explain why they believe Jordan deserves to pay for everything he's done. The fear factor. You know, there's something absolutely terrifying about greatness when it comes wrapped in the form of a 6 feet 6 inches basketball god. You see, when we talk about Michael Jordan, we're not just discussing a player who dominated the hardwood. We're talking about a psychological weapon living, breathing nightmare that haunted the dreams of NBA legends for over a decade. And here's the thing that might shock you. Some of the greatest players to ever lace up their sneakers have openly admitted that they were genuinely, legitimately terrified of Michael Jordan. Now, I want you to really think about that for a second. These weren't rookies fresh out of college, shaking in their boots during their first professional game. No, no, no. These were seasoned veterans, Hall of Famers, multiple-time All-Stars, who had seen it all, done it all, and conquered everything the league threw at them. And yet, when they stepped onto that court and saw number 23 in that iconic Chicago Bulls jersey, something inside them fundamentally shifted. The confidence evaporated. The swagger disappeared. What remained was pure, unadulterated fear. Shaquille O'Neal, one of the most physically dominant players in NBA history, a man who towered over opponents at 7 feet 1 and weighed well over 300 pounds of pure muscle, mitted something that would make any basketball fans' jaw drop to the floor. Shaq, the same Shaq who nicknamed himself the Diesel, who shattered backboards with his dunks, who intimidated entire franchises with his presence, confessed that he was terrified of Michael Jordan. Let me say that again for emphasis. Shaquille O'Neal was terrified of Michael Jordan. Interview, think about the weight of those words coming from Shaq's mouth. Here's a man who built an entire career on being the most feared presence in the paint, someone who could physically dominate anyone who dared challenge him near the basket. And yet, when he faced Jordan, he described the experience as seeing something that transcended basketball. Jordan's presence felt godlike to him, but Shaq wasn't alone in this fear, not by a long shot. The list of NBA legends who've admitted to being psychologically dominated by Jordan reads like a who's who of basketball royalty. We're talking about players who define their own eras, have their jerseys hanging in rafters across the country, who are celebrated as some of the greatest competitors the sport has ever seen. And every single one of them experienced that same chilling realization when they matched up against Jordan. They were in the presence of something otherworldly. Kevin Garnett, known for his own legendary intensity and trash-talking prowess, described watching Jordan play as being similar to staring at the sun. Think about that metaphor for a moment. You can't look directly at the sun without hurting yourself, without being overwhelmed by something so powerful and brilliant that your eyes can't process it. That's how Garnett experienced Jordan on the basketball court. He said it seemed like everything moved in slow motion when Jordan had the ball, like time itself bent to accommodate his will. And this wasn't Jordan in his prime. Garnett recalled a game where Jordan, playing on an injured ankle, casually dropped 40 points on them like it was nothing more than a light morning workout. Now, you might be wondering what exactly created this fear. Was it purely Jordan's physical capabilities? Well, let's talk about that for a moment. Because Jordan's athleticism was absolutely insane, the man had a 48-inch vertical leap. That's 4 feet of elevation, folks. To put that in perspective, that's higher than most people can reach with their hands while standing flat-footed. His hang time was measured at 0 seconds and 92 milliseconds, which doesn't sound like much until you realize that's almost a full second of defying gravity from floating through the air. While every defender on the court could only watch in helpless amazement as he contorted his body in ways that seemed to violate the fundamental laws of physics. His career scoring average of 30.1 points per game speaks to his consistency. But it's the peak performance. We were his teammates, and we were afraid of him. The exclamation point there isn't just for a dramatic effect. You could hear the genuine emotion in Buechler's voice when he recalled those championship years. Steve Kerr, who would later become a highly successful NBA coach, admitted he was scared to death of Jordan's harsh criticism and impossibly high expectations. This fear created what some teammates described as being constantly on alert, especially after losses or poor performances. Tony Kukoc mentioned that everybody was always on edge around Michael after a bad game, creating an environment of tension that paradoxically pushed the team to greater heights while simultaneously making the locker room feel like a powder keg, waiting to explode. But here's the fascinating psychological element that made Jordan truly unstoppable. He weaponized trash talk in ways that no player before or since has ever matched. Reggie Miller, himself known as one of the league's great trash talkers, learned the hard way that you don't poke the bear when it comes to Michael Jordan. During an exhibition game, Miller made the rookie mistake of talking trash to Jordan, thinking he could get into his head. Big mistake. Huge mistake. Jordan responded by scoring 44 points in the second half alone, absolutely demolishing Miller and the Pacers while making it abundantly clear that there was a hierarchy on that basketball. Cortan Miller was nowhere near the top of it. After the game, Jordan delivered a warning that would become legendary. Be careful. You never talk to Black Jesus like that. Shaquille O'Neal later revealed what he called an unspoken rule that existed throughout the NBA during Jordan's playing. Days don't make Michael Jordan angry. Just don't do it. Because if you did diff, you somehow managed to give him extra motivation to awaken what players called his vengeful rage were about to experience a level of basketball dominance that bordered on the supernatural. Even coaches understood this. John Calipari, when he was coaching against Jordan, would actively avoid making eye contact with him, knowing that any perceived slight could unleash a performance that would be talked about for decades. What some of you might be thinking wasn't this just standard competitive intensity. Didn't all the great players have this kind of edge? Well, yes and no. See, what separated Jordan wasn't just that he was competitive. It's that his competitiveness infected everyone around him like a virus, spreading fear and raising the stakes of every single possession, every single game, every single season to levels that felt almost unbearable. The mental warfare master. Jordan's trash talking wasn't random or impulsive. It was strategic, calculated, and devastatingly effective. He would study his opponents, find their weaknesses, their insecurities, their pressure points, and then he would exploit them with surgical precision. We're not talking about generic trash talk here, the kind of "you can't guard me" stuff that happens in every basketball game at every level. No, Jordan's approach was different. It was personal, it was prophetic, and it was absolutely ruthless. One of the most infamous examples of Jordan's psychological warfare involved Muggsy Bogues, the 5'3" guard for the Charlotte Hornets. Now Bogues had built an entire NBA career on overcoming the obvious height disadvantage, proving that heart and skill could triumph over physical limitations. He was quick, he was crafty, and he was a solid defender despite giving up nearly 1.5 feet to most of the players he guarded. But during a crucial playoff game in 1995, with the Hornets down by just 1 point and Bogues having the ball, Jordan backed off and delivered a line that would allegedly haunt Bogues for the rest of his career. "Shoot it, you Bogues," airballed the shot. The Bulls won the series. And according to Bogues' coach, Johnny Batch, that single moment, that one brutal piece of trash talk ruined Bogues' shooting confidence for the remainder of his career. Bogues' scoring averages dropped significantly after that incident.